Claire, Cheryl, how you guys doing?
Good, how are
Pretty
you?
good, Jacob. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for asking. Um, yeah, just a beautiful Friday here in Olympia, so I'm excited to get outside at the end of today.
An unseasonably beautiful day.
Yeah. Yeah, the real sign of spring coming. So looks like we'll
Thanks for
maybe.
reaching out with regard to my the upcoming tabling we're going to do at the short school for water and wastewater operators.
Yeah, that's exciting.
You reminded me that I had needed to reach out to my chapter members to see if I can find how much inventory we have of membership forms and things like that, handouts, and try and find where in the hell we stashed, since we've been in COVID mode for so many years, where in the hell we stashed our banner that we used to hang on events like this.
I know of other chapters who have misplaced their banners as well. So yeah, just keep me in the loop about that and we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll find it. It's just I've reached out to a few folks that will know the details.
Perfect. That sounds great, Claire. I'm looking forward to it. These like membership type events that I've been getting to go to. It's been a really good time trying to bring people in and generate some interest. So I'm looking forward to that. Carol, you made it.
I did.
Awesome. Okay. The link worked. Good. I wonder. Hey, Alyssa. One sec. Alyssa's just checking to make sure that the Zoom information isn't.
There wasn't any reminder sent today.
No, and
I
I didn't see it on the calendar either,
It wasn't
Just
on the calendar.
where I usually pick up the link, but I just for sure I remembered that Lori had said it was today, so I went into last month's link.
Yeah,
February.
fortunately, the link doesn't change, so I
Right.
stuck it into my recurring meeting on my calendar.
That's a
Right.
good idea. Yeah. No, we'll yeah, I'll talk with Derek about making sure that we have communications going out about these ahead of time.
Yeah.
Usually that's not much of an issue, but yeah, hopefully we get a few more people today.
Hey, Carol, is Paulette Thompson somebody who shows up at your chapter meetings?
She's been a member for quite a while. The first time she showed up at our meeting was this last month. She's been in touch with me, calling me.
So she showed up when she wanted something.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put that on her because,
Okay.
she calls me from time to time.
Oh, good.
And she's going to run for office this April, so that's good.
Oh, good.
So then she'll have to come.
Yeah.
I was just typing in information to one of my presidents to see if she can make it.
So, Jacob, what do you mean by an e-blast list for presidents?
Oh, I'm sorry. That was supposed to be for Alyssa. I was just curious if she had a list of emails that would be really easy to send out. Yeah. Oh, we got somebody else on the phone. Who's joining us today? Nope.
You muted.
This is Andrea Torlin, chapter 35.
Oh, great.
Hey,
Hi,
Andrea. Nice of you to make it.
Yeah. You bet.
How you been?
Okay, hanging in there.
Good. Okay. Alyssa's going to try to send out a quick blast email to the presidents in case anybody is tuning in, trying to figure out how to get into this meeting. Give it just a few more minutes and then we can just start digging into it.
I had an incorrect passcode was my problem. I missed a number.
Oh, okay. And where did you find the link, Carol? Did you go to last month's link as well?
No, I have it. I have a Post-it note on my computer monitor with the ID,
Oh,
but I missed a number.
when you wrote your note down, huh?
Yeah. That's why I couldn't get
Sometimes it's nice to have a reminder because, you know, it's pretty easy to forget St. Patty's Day and the weekend.
I know. Happy
Yeah.
St. Patty's Day.
That's
Yay.
right. People wearing their green today.
Yeah.
I am, and I got my corned beef cooking.
Ooh,
I'm very excited about this.
nice.
I had it last night. It was delicious.
Yes.
Anyone been pinched today for not wearing green?
Only because I can't reach you.
I am not wearing green, actually. I didn't think about it.
Okay, so I figure we can just start now on reviewing, what we discussed last month, and then, hopefully some other people make it in from there. All right. Come on, there we go. All right, you guys can all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are the topics that we talked about last month in February. We generated a little bit of conversation, something that needs to kind of keep continuing because it's hard to pull feedback out of some people. So I think, these kind of conversations need to happen more frequently. Enticing potential members, what new ways can we use to try to generate some interest from potential members? Next would be member engagement. How can you get more members to attend meetings, actually be engaged and paying attention, providing feedback that's usable to inform better decisions for the chapter and for the organization. And then we briefly mentioned about the HDA listening sessions and the strategic plan. And so I'll cover that briefly at the end again, just as a reminder. Okay. Get somebody else. Okay. All right, so topics to cover for today are going to be chapter officers finishing their term strong. It's election season, so we're going to be kind of discussing the transition of old leaders to new leaders. Chapter newsletters, just briefly covering what's kind of the timeline of when we need to receive them to be able to get them sent out on time per the WFC mail house. And then finding guest speakers. I'm going to be showing you guys a guest speaker list that Alyssa and I have generated. We have a first draft of it. And so it's going to be something really usable for chapters moving forward. Tools for recruitment and retention. I'll dig into that some more here in a few minutes. And then member mobilization. Okay, so finishing your term strong. Inevitably, our terms have limits in leadership positions. And so you've got to be prepared for when you pass off the baton, is the person who's taking it from you prepared to do so? Because even though you won't be the president or, whatever position of office anymore, that person is still going to be running your chapter. And so you want them to be successful because it's your chapter too. And it all matters for every member of the chapter. And so, I don't know if we're usually having conversations like this. I obviously haven't been here very long, but I think, come next election season next year, I think, or, a few months ahead of time, maybe towards the end of this year, start having discussions with chapter presidents about, do you have people that are willing to run for office and, are going to be able to fulfill the position. Start having those conversations with members so that you can kind of weed out the ones that don't really want to participate in leadership roles. And so that kind of segues into, helping new leaders be successful. What kind of tips, training can you help out with your incoming leaders to, give them a leg up in their new leadership role? So, Carol, would you still like to speak to this a little bit? Do you have tips that you would typically, or wish you knew when you started as a leader, things like that?
Well, I transitioned as president of the Washington Federation of State Employees. I retired, and a new president came to pass, and I handed the gavel to them and congratulated them. And then I took them out to lunch to just share with them some things I learned, some tips to help. Offered to do some practice sessions using parliamentary procedure with them, so they could figure out how to handle it when things get a little bumpy. And the thing that I think for us is most important is this booklet. It's called Retiree Officers Manual. And in the back couple of pages, it tells you how to chair a meeting. And that's really, really important, because there's an order to the meeting that keeps the meeting moving along well. And it affords people an opportunity to participate, as members of the meeting. And so I found the meeting location is extremely important. We had a very good meeting location in my chapter for a long time, and it was a packed room. Sometimes there weren't enough chairs for everybody. and that location closed. They sold that business, and a pot shop moved in. And so they wanted to stay close to that location. So we moved down the street, and the new location is horrible. It's noisy. The waitresses just bust in whenever they want to and, take over, just start talking out loud, even if there's a speaker speaking, and it's been horrible. And as a result, my membership attendance dropped to about a third of what it was. And so we're working on that now to find a new location. We're trying out some different places. But I think the most important thing you can do is to help by pitching in where they need help, by offering to be available to them, by phone or, whatever they need, offering to pick up some of the tasks, because there's always more jobs than there are people to do them. So if you see a hole and you step in and you kind of plug it and help them out, I think it makes for a good relationship long term, and it's helpful to the members. And the other thing I think is important is when you're at the meeting space, somebody needs to be assigned to sort of be a greeter, to welcome people in, to help them find a seat, whatever. It's just a warm way of being. And the location of your sign-in sheet, your minutes, and the treasurer report, if you can put them somewhere as they enter, or on a table kind of separate, so they can come and get their stuff without disrupting everything, that's helpful. We always meet in a restaurant, so I always give them a half an hour to order their food and drink and get settled and, converse a little bit with the people around them. And then when I open the meeting, I'm especially sensitive to brand new people being there and not knowing anyone. So we always go around the room and do introductions and say who we are, where we retired from, a little bit about ourselves, so that everybody kind of gets a sense of who's in the room. And then I repeat that because sometimes I can't remember everybody's name. So we do that a lot. And then if you do something special, like chapter 10 at one meeting recently paid for everybody's lunch. So if you announce that at the beginning of the meeting before they order, they know that they can order the lobster on you. And that's important to know. And my chapter, if it's a first time attendee to the meeting, we always buy their lunch, and we buy the lunch of the speaker that we have. And then I open the meeting and I make sure to follow the agenda in that officer manual, because it's very helpful to keep me on track, which keeps everybody else on track. And then there should be a program for the meeting. There should be a speaker or an activity that they're going to do that engages the members, and it should be pertinent to their interest. So for example, when we were having to do Zoom because of the pandemic, Mark Brown had a wonderful slideshow of all the parks in Washington State, because he's on the Parks Commission, and it's beautiful pictures and places to go, and people could actually go and do that even during the pandemic, because the parks weren't crowded then, and you could just get in your car and go and feel pretty safe. So it should be pertinent to their interests. And one of the things I always tell new leaders is, if you're going to rile them up and make them mad by telling them something ugly, like next month you're not getting your Social Security check, right? I mean, they would blow up. Well, you never want to have your members upset and angry and leave the meeting that way. So if you're going to give them bad news, you always give them something they can do about it. So we had an issue with the Postal Service. We had some handicapped members who relied on going down to the blue box in their wheelchair and putting their bills in the blue box. And they took the blue boxes away in a lot of areas, and particularly this particular apartment building. And everybody was mad about Louis DeJoy and all of that. So we did a postcard campaign, and we had Derek make labels for the postcards to our legislators at the federal level. And then I had everybody write their postcard, and I had the prepaid postcards that you can buy. So all they had to do was write it, and then we could put it in the mailbox. And so when we were mad about the Postal Service, we were all able to say that and to ask our legislators at the federal level to do something about it. So that's an example of, it's an issue that matters to people, but you give them something to do. You don't just leave them angry. And what else do I do? Oh, I always want to thank the members for their participation or the actions they've taken. Like if they spoke at a legislative hearing, I highlight that. Tim Welch, president of Chapter 2, did a wonderful tribute at his last meeting. We did one of the women that was honored at the Women in the Military event last June 12th turned 100 years old this year, and passed away on January 30th. She was a member of his chapter. Her son was also a member of the chapter. So he did a wonderful tribute to her, had her picture up, talked about, what she had done, why it was important, and really honored her. And it meant a lot to that membership, and it meant a great deal to her son, who also spoke at the meeting. So that's an example of, reaching out and thanking people, or highlighting something special that someone has done, that taken on a task. And so I always thank the members for their participation. Then I always adjourn the meeting, and then they have social time, or there's an activity plan that they can do, maybe play a game. I have incentive gifts where people can win prizes. And I always make sure, like my last president's report was full of Zoom links and phone numbers and all kinds of things, that if you just tell members that, and they try to write it down and they lose their piece of paper, it's just a mess. So what I always try to do is write it out, what I would like them to do. I always tease them. I say, if you come to a meeting here, you're going to have homework. And then I give them the document. They're all printed out. I go to the print shop and get everything printed out. And then I give it to them to take away from the meeting, so they can go home and participate in a Zoom meeting, or call their legislator, or send an email, whatever it is that we're asking, RPEC is asking members to do, I make sure they have that piece of paper with them when they leave. So, and that helps them to participate fully, and it makes them understand that that meeting was important and there are meaningful things to do, and that it matters that they do them, and that they see at some point an outcome. Like the women in the military came from a resolution started in my chapter and spread, and RPEC supported it. Now every June 12th, they'll celebrate women in the military. And that means a great deal because a lot of our members are veterans. So chapter 10 does a November event where they invite the veterans from American Lake to come and have lunch with them, and they pay for all their lunches and they give them presents and stuff and honor them in November at their November meeting. So every chapter has some wonderful idea that's worthy of sharing, because it makes all of our meetings stronger and better when we see ideas from other chapters. So I'd really love to hear ideas that anyone here has for making the meeting successful.
Yeah, if anybody else has any input, definitely feel free to speak up. All right, Carol, I captured what you said, and I think there's a lot of useful information in there. So I'm going to be utilizing that in how I work with chapters moving forward. I think you've got a lot of good tips. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. I think I talked too much and now everybody's quiet.
Oh, Claire, go ahead.
Well, there's a ton of useful information in there, and I just want to highlight one thing. It seems to me that when we have a good speaker, and I'm not convinced I know exactly the difference between a good one and a bad one, but someone who's known, someone whose opinion is valued by the members, that helps our turnout at my chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. We want the speaker to be, relevant to the members, something that's going to interest them. So I guess, yeah, it takes one, knowing your members, and then two, identifying a speaker who, falls in line with what your members are interested in. That's, we're going to be talking about a speakers list here in a few minutes. And I think that's the direction I'd like to go in, is start, providing contact information and trying to confirm with a guest speaker ahead of time, like, hey, is this something that you would be available for? Like having a contact person, a representative that we have the contact information for, that we know we can get a hold of for the presentation. We don't want to send members or, chapter leaders on a wild goose chase. So we want it to be usable and organized. Claire and Carol, thank you guys for contributing to this topic. Yeah, and as Carol had said as well, getting members to help take on tasks. Sometimes presidents have a lot of responsibilities, and some delegation could help them out a lot. Just finding people that are willing to help. And, specifically to Carol's point, if you're an outgoing chapter president, and it could be very helpful to your new chapter leader to, take on some of the tasks that they're not that familiar with yet. So, all right. Moving on. So chapter newsletters. This is just a reminder more so that, so when you have a meeting coming up, the timeline that we shoot for is trying to receive the newsletter 3 weeks ahead of your meeting. So yeah, if you have a meeting every single month, pretty much a week after your chapter meeting, you would start developing the next newsletter. A conversation that might be worth having on a larger scale is, how often chapters do want to meet. One chapter recently changed from, every month minus 2 months of the year to quarterly, just because the amount of effort that's going into trying to get all these people together, the speaker, people aren't attending, and having less frequent meetings seems to be working well for that chapter. That's not going to be the same for all. But these are questions we got to ask ourselves, because we have to adapt. We have to be willing to make changes to address the challenges of our chapters. And I think maybe with some chapters, at least, they have challenges with how frequently they're trying to meet. And I wonder, some chapters also are offering the lunch thing as well. And I know that that helps bring people in, but I'm curious how many people that brings in that want to actually participate. So I'd be curious to have these conversations with people just to kind of see how we need to, adjust how we garner member support and member participation. Go ahead, Carol.
I just wanted to say, because I've been to some chapter meetings around the state, not all of them, of course, but some. And what I notice is some presidents are very prepared to have a meeting. Other presidents have done no preparation for the meeting that you could see. And I think preparation for the meeting is critical. And I don't think you can, I mean, you can just fly by the seat of your pants. God knows I've done it a time or two. But if you really prepare for the meeting, and you know what you want to see go on, and you set it up, you're so far and away better off. And members notice if you're prepared to have a meeting or if you're just, sort of winging it. So I think meeting preparation is really critical.
That, I guess, across the board, the chapter presidents don't necessarily have a universal approach to chapter meetings, nor are they necessarily provided with any sort of support or training in that aspect. So maybe that's something that, we consider from the council office, trying to provide some support for, especially new leadership, but also old leaders too, because, some leaders maybe could just use some support in their organization and things like that. Yeah, thanks for chiming in, Carol. I appreciate it. So chapter communications. Oh, go ahead, Carol.
I'm just wondering, did all of the presidents, when they were elected, receive the retiree officers manual?
The chapter presidents?
Yeah.
Last year, I'm not sure. I just got my first response from a chapter about their elections results, so I haven't mailed those off yet, but I don't know who didn't get it last year.
Thank
so
you.
That's something I'll make sure that everyone receives one and I get confirmation that they have it. Okay. Okay, so newsletter purpose. People have different takes on this, but bottom line is that, the members' dues, this is the one thing they should be guaranteed is, timely, regular news, timely, regular information that, is informative about the challenges that they face in their retirement. So, like Carol said, she also does a lot of including contact information and like calls to action to try to, arm her members with the right tools to be able to, talk to legislators to make change or to, organize meetings, things like that. And just making newsletters more interesting. Some chapters, like to have clip art on their newsletters. Some chapters like to organize it in a certain way that's a little more appealing. So just kind of being a little more attentive to the design of your newsletter and thinking of, what kind of information can I include that on that first line when a member reads that first line that they're going to be like, oh, I better keep reading. You don't want them to read the first line and say, oh, I don't really care about this. You want to try to leave some trigger language in there that's going to keep them engaged. Go ahead, Carol.
Well, one of the problems I have had is I wanted to put some pictures in my newsletter and I try to send them to Derek and they don't go anywhere. So at some point I would like some help with how to make the pictures go over where they need to go.
Yeah, I could definitely help you with that, Carol. No problem at all. Yeah, pictures are good too, even though it's in black and white, the quality of the print is still good enough to clearly see the picture. I know Cheryl's included pictures in her newsletter before, especially, following legislative day, members with their legislators. So that's always great too. Showing off to the chapter, what are the leaders of the chapter doing? What are we doing to organize our members and actually put these dues money to use? So I think those are all great ideas. Just want to make sure I capture this. Yeah, Carol, we can touch base next week if you'd like, and I can try to figure out what you've got going on your end.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so finding guest speakers. So I'm just going to kind of show you here real quick. I'm going to change sharing to, let's see. Here we go. All right. So don't worry if this looks a little overwhelming at first. Like I said, this is our rough draft. We finally compiled all this information, you know, contact information, what type of agency it is, you know, what would be the category of what they're discussing. So essentially, you know, we've got all the organizations listed on the left side, and we're trying to actually confirm speakers. So we're contacting these agencies, these individuals, and asking them, like, are you willing to make yourself available, you know, given your schedule, to come speak at chapter meetings to our members? So we're trying to make sure that, you know, the agencies on this list, once we provide it to chapter leaders, are going to be confirmed willing to present to chapters. Not you're going to reach out to them and they say, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We want to make sure that this is 100% usable when we make it live. So it's something that I would definitely appreciate feedback on if you guys have any, if there's ways that we could make it more organized or more user friendly. You know, feel free to share. And so, and then over here on the right side is just details about what they do. And so this spreadsheet ideally will be, you know, made available to, at the very least, all chapter leaders, maybe on our website at some point, once we get there. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, go ahead, Carol.
I have a criticism.
Fair enough.
So I got 2 brand new members to come to the meeting for the first time, and we had Lutheran Home Services come and speak, you know, about the services they offer to people with Alzheimer's, etc. And these 2 people never came back. And when I called them and said, hey, you know, what's going on? They said, we're too young for this. So we need some speakers that would appeal to people who are not quite that elderly, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. Claire, I'll get to you as soon as I respond to this. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so I try being transparent when I'm inviting people to speak and say, like, you know, we're a retiree advocacy organization. Our members are retired. So I'm making sure as I go through this process and communicating with these agencies, individuals, that they understand who our member base is. Claire, go ahead.
Christine Lavra's on the call. I know she's looking for speakers right now. It'd be great if you could share that spreadsheet with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. Yeah, just be aware, you know, I don't mind sharing this, but as you can see in the speaker confirmed column, some of these agencies don't have like an individual, you know, like this, the Department of Retirement Systems. I actually met somebody, Catherine Cadu, who gave me her business card and said that she would be willing to do presentations. Any of these other ones that don't say they're confirmed, we don't know for sure how the whole contact process will go. We just have, you know, whatever information we could find for contacting people for these purposes.
Yeah, well, as long as you got phone numbers and emails, we'll stumble through it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I would not mind sending that over to you guys whatsoever. I will do that. Christine, if you'd like to, you could always, we could always chat sometime this afternoon after this monthly leadership call, and I could help facilitate finding a speaker.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I've been relying on one of our members, but she's also been helping to write the newsletter.
Okay.
And not our secretary, and she's not our vice president who supposedly finds speakers. So it's like having trouble getting some help.
Yeah, I totally understand that. You're not alone. The idea of this whole speakers list is exactly for that. Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
You got me. Yeah, the idea of the speakers list is to address that exact issue. You know, if you know, chapters don't exactly have a good system in place, or the person that is doing the newsletters is not able to maybe keep up with finding a guest speaker, then that's exactly what this is for. So yeah, just let me know if you would like some help with that, Christine. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and share the spreadsheet with you all after the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and move back to, let's see. Okay. All right, you guys see that okay? Oh, weird. It's showing the weird modified view. Hold up. There we go. Okay. So yeah, one other key thing is, depending on the speaker you try to get to attend your chapter meeting, like legislators or, like agency higher ups, they're probably going to need a little more lead time to prepare, to schedule to do a presentation for your chapter. We might be talking 3 or 4 months possibly. So it's always good to be on your feet and thinking a few months ahead for your chapter meetings. I know that they're often enough at this point that some leaders are used to the monthly regimen, the monthly routine. But I think it's good to start thinking ahead to be able to plan for having better guest speakers that are more relevant to your members, being better prepared in general for your meetings, like Carol said. So scheduling in advance is a part of that, the preparation. And yeah, information that would be most relevant or exciting to members, based on like county speakers, for example, it's going to be more relevant for, I've seen some chapters like get their county assessor, for example, and that had good response rate. So that's relevancy right there. Okay. There we go. Okay, so something that I'm developing in membership is scripts for different things that chapter leaders can utilize. I know not all chapter leaders are big talkers or socialites, and that's just the way it is. Not everybody's like that. And so the idea would be that there would be a predetermined key phrase, some keywords, whatever, that members, chapter leaders could use for these different things. So starting with a recruitment script for all members, that would be a general, what would you say to a potential member to try to get them to join? What would you, as another member of RPEC, say? Right? A lot of members at chapter meetings I've gone to said that they have no idea how to approach doing that, and that something like this would be very useful to them. And so I will be showing you on the next slide here in a minute, what I call a flow chart for recruitment. And I'll show you that here in a sec. I'm working on a retention script for chapter leaders reaching out to drop to members. So when I do the adds, drops, changes reports every month, I don't know what kind of follow-up happens on the chapter level with those. I kind of leave it up to chapter leaders to make that decision. But maybe it's because maybe we don't contact some of them, and it's because we don't know what we would even say. That can be an uncomfortable thing, realistically. Something to remember too is that, when members are leaving the organization, if it's not for good reasons, it's just because they're unhappy with things like, the politics of it, things that we have no control over, things that aren't our fault. And so it's not ever something that you have to worry about being directed at you personally, but it's something you consider that sometimes people are unhappy. And so I'm going to develop a script for people to use for reaching out after members have dropped from their chapter. And same for contacting new members that come in the adds, drops, changes, giving people some sort of tool to reference to upon their first contact with new members. Okay, so for the recruitment script for all members, what I've developed from that is this. Okay, and what this is a flow chart of, how would you start the conversation with a possible potential member for RPEC? And so starting at the top, public sector employment status, you would ask them, have you ever worked in the public sector? And, if it's yes or no, do you currently work in the public sector? Are you retired? Are you active? Right? And then previously would be that they have a pension in the state, but they don't work there anymore, but they're still active. So that, you know, those are the type of membership that we have. The three main memberships of RPEC are the, you know, full retiree membership, the associate membership, which would correspond to these actives that I have in question in the blue box here. Those are the active employees. And then the previous is vested people. So we do have a vested membership at RPEC. And so that means if somebody worked in public service in Washington and they earned a pension, but then they left public service and chose to go work private, well, they're still getting paid out of a pension for public service. Therefore, they qualify. But it's an own membership category. And so I don't even think most people know that we have that third membership category. And so that's why I incorporated that into here. Okay. So for example, you know, if the person said they're an active employee, you ask them, are they 18 months or less until retirement? Because if they are, they can get a free associate membership. So this is going to take a little bit of time and feedback to kind of, you know, make this the norm, because I'm sure when we approach new people or potential new people, we don't break it down like this. You know, we kind of ask the questions that come to mind as we're interacting with the person. So the idea is we get a lot more streamlined recruitment efforts here. Okay. If this is something else that chapter leaders would like me to send them at this point, I'd be more than happy to do that. Otherwise, this is just, again, like a first draft of something that's going to be hopefully really usable moving forward. Any comments or questions about this right now? Claire?
One thing I always ask when I'm talking to active employees, whether they're within the 18-month window or not, is, do you know anybody in your workplace who's getting close, and can I give you an associate member application form for you to provide to them?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good additional side tip. Yeah, even at, you know, like these WFC policy meetings and things like that, we have, you know, members of the union coming by, checking out our table, but they say, you know, I'm not there yet. We always ask them like, hey, would you be willing to take, you know, one of our associate member flyers back to your local or back to your coworkers that are close to retirement? And they very, very rarely say no. Whether they're just being nice or whether they want to help you out, they barely say no. So I think that's a very useful follow-up question to ask. Thanks for chiming in, Claire. Any other questions or comments? Carol?
I was going to say, in the Federation contract, there's a requirement for the employer to provide union bulletin boards. And so it's useful to ask people to put those associate membership flyers on their bulletin boards at work.
I did not know that they were mandatory. That's really good information. Thank you for sharing that, Carol. Okay, so yeah, this is something I'll be bringing to membership committee as well, and having a further vetted discussion with them about ways that this can either be improved, or, you know, how we can help members actually utilize this to recruit people. But it's a starting point. It gets you from point A, you know, are you in public service, to point B. Either they're not eligible or there's more follow-up to be done. So I think for the most part, it's pretty straightforward compared to just trying to guess at it. But any feedback that you guys have about it moving forward, I'm open to suggestions. Okay. And so member mobilization, cover this briefly. So the purpose of chapter mobilization is that, oh, go ahead, Carol.
Oh, I just wanted to add to the last conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're close to the work site, you know, where you once worked, sometimes management will allow you to have a room and announce your presence, and you'll be given an opportunity to meet with folks that are interested to come by and talk to you. And when I was younger, we used to have like bagels and or donuts, you know, from Legendary Donuts, or fried chicken works because the smell wafts down the hallway and draws people around lunchtime. And so, or you can talk to the local president and see if you can do a presentation at their membership meeting. And those are all ways of, I mean, the associate members are our future leaders. And so we need to, you know, I know we're paying people to get people to pay dues, and I get that. But I don't think we should neglect the associate membership piece of it, because the activists that are still working will be most likely to be the activists when they retire, because they miss it. They miss the activity that they're used to. So that's what I wanted to share.
Of that I know of is like with Cheryl's chapter, Rick DeBay, he's the previous president of his local, is that right? 1060, I think is what it is.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
They paid his membership for the first year,
that's right.
and he was retiring. They reminded him about RPEC and told him that they'd pay his membership for the first year.
That's great to hear that they reminded him. I'm happy
Yeah.
to hear that. Yeah. No, yeah, that's perfect. I think you know, like that example with Rick getting their dues paid, that's going to get people in the door too, especially if, you know, we get someone interested at that 18-month mark, you know, 18 months till they retire. They can get the free membership till the day they retire, and then their local pays for a year. I mean, that's 2.5 years where they didn't pay a dime. If they liked us by 2.5 years, they're sticking around. You know, I think that's the reality of it.
Well, Rick
And
better
there's- yeah.
stick around. President. We just
Yeah,
elected
no
a
joke. Yeah,
New Chapter 7 president, so.
yes. Hopefully he sticks around. That's right. Yeah. No, I spoke with Rick a little bit. He's got some opportunities to go speak with his previous local. So I think
Right.
that's really good. That's some really good insight. And yeah, thanks for answering my questions there, Cheryl. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
I can give you another example. I signed up Patty Daly, who's still working.
Patty
as-
Daly Shives. Yeah.
Yes, and she's still working, but she loves the union, and she's been showing up to the retiree meetings, and
Oh,
and
good.
and would like to serve as secretary there. And so that's an example of taking an activist and creating a new activist within RPEC.
That's perfect, Carol. That is awesome to hear. And Patty is one of the people that I regularly see at the policy meetings. So she always comes and stops by the table. I did a presentation over Zoom to her local. And so, you know, she's recognizing me when I go back now, and we're having more conversations about RPEC. So I think all these things that we're doing with the Federation and, you know, can be done with other unions and, you know, other organizations in general. I think that that's the key to it, is that visibility, that constant engagement, trying to show the potential members that they could be extremely useful to this member base, to everybody who's a part of this cause. So yeah, thank you everyone for chiming in on that topic about, you know, how we can partner up with unions and try to get some more visibility for RPEC. So just briefly, member mobilization, I'll just keep this extremely brief. So, you know, typically when we have something important that members need to be notified of, we do mass communications. You know, there are some constraints to using mass communications, like email blasting. You're really limited on how many emails you can send in a single email blast without being at really high risk of marked as spam. Or being blocked by a service provider potentially. And so, you know, Derek's work into that is breaking it up into multiple of the same emails with target groups of a fixed amount of people to be able to, you know, accomplish the communication we need to without risking, you know, going to the spam folder. And so following that, anytime we reach out to chapters about, you know, hey, we really could use your help communicating to your members, you know, we've got this big thing coming up, you know, like the listening sessions or something like that, right? We don't expect you to, you know, spend all your time trying to call people until you have confirmed people. We just, you know, we just ask that you help how you can. We know you also have schedules too, so we're not, yeah, we're not asking for a massive commitment, just to as a reminder that, you know, the office does have constraints with communications, and sometimes members do like to hear from their leaders. Especially, you know, some of the chapters that are a little more tight knit, regularly meet in person, you know, do events and things together like that. So if anybody has anything to say about that, I'm open to it. Otherwise, no issues. Everything's been going great. You know, chapter leaders are doing really well, and new chapter leaders coming in is exciting. So yeah, Carol.
I have a, excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
I've sent out emails through the Wizard phone.
Yeah.
To folks about like the listening sessions and things like that. Are you telling me that if I send too many, they're blocked?
I don't think that's how it works through Wizard Phone, but if you were to send it from like your personal email, if not, and not too many overall, like if you tried sending like to 1,000 recipients one email, right? If you put 1,000 recipients in that email, that is likely going to get marked as spam.
What about 500?
That's the limit that we use.
It is?
It is.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Claire.
That's better than I found back in the old days when I was doing emails that would go to not thousands, but maybe a few hundred people, that if I had to break it down into like 20 or 25 in a batch to get past the spam filters.
Yeah,
maybe it's better
that's
now,
rough.
but it was pretty small number back in those days.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Now, I do email blasts regularly for a handful of chapter newsletters, and I want to say the biggest one is like 350 recipients, and I'm able to send that all out with no issues. You know, another question though that comes about that discussion is how current and accurate is member contact information, right? I think, I don't know how, but formulating a way to keep up on contact information, especially for future members. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but you know, communications are challenging when the emails that we're sending maybe are going to a dead email address, right? So yeah, anyway, moving forward. So part of method, oh, sorry, Carol, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you use Wizard Phone, they send an automatic message saying, I have your phone number as blah, blah, blah. And, you know, please correct it. And they do, because I send those to you, Jacob.
That's right. Yep. Yep, you sure do. And I can tell you right now that the list of bad member contact information currently has about 300 members with bad email addresses that I'm aware of. And that's maybe only across like 8 chapters that have sent me robocall lists. So the robocall thing, as you're saying, Carol, is a huge added benefit to it, with the fact that apparently you get an automated message if your email is included on that report that we send into Wizard Phone, that you'll get an automated message that says, you know, check your number, make sure it's correct. We don't have any system in place to do that for our members. So anytime a member gets a new phone number, we typically don't know about it, and then we have no way to contact them. And then a lot of times later down the road, their email is no longer usable, whether that's because the email provider is no longer in business or what it is. We do have, you know, probably 50 members on this list that we don't have a phone number or email for currently. And so we might be looking at, you know, how many of these members are, you know, actively participating? Do we have a way to get a hold of them to find out, like, you know, are they wanting to even be contacted in the first place? So it's a bigger conversation, but just know that is the process of me going through those robocall reports that you provide me. Is you know, I put it into a spreadsheet. I keep track of, you know, what information is bad, keep track of what sort of contact I've tried to make with them and whether or not we got an updated address or phone number. So anytime you have robocall reports, yeah, send them to me and I'll look into it the best I can. So, okay, yeah, so robocalls, email blasts, phone calls, text, these are just some of the main mediums you can use for contacting your members. Okay, that's going to conclude the actual main portion of the monthly leadership call. Before just doing some reminders, does anybody have any questions, comments, or topics that they wanted to bring up? No? Okay.
Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate everybody who was able to attend today. And I will make sure to, send the usable speakers list for chapter leaders. And if any of you are wanting to utilize that flow chart in its first draft state, just let me know. So yeah,
See
just
you
a,
all
go
at
ahead.
the legislative update.
Yes, absolutely. You guys take care. Yep, just a reminder, be looking at those HCA meetings and trying to get people to them. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jacob.
I'll talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. I'll talk to
Thank
you
you,
later.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.